been a long-haul truck driver across the Midwest for over 14 years, from high-speed interstates to forgotten back roads that barely exist on maps. I've traveled them all. I truly believed I had seen everything this life behind the wheel could throw at me. But that morning, something shifted in me. Even now, when I think back, it sends a chill through my spine. And the worst part, I wasn't the only one. If stories like this grab you, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell. That day, I pulled out of the shipping depot in Clearbrook just before 4:40 a.m. The sky was a cold, steel blue blur, not yet light, not quite dark. The air hung thick with dew, and Route 38 felt heavier than usual, like the silence was pressing in from the trees. My delivery was scheduled for a construction site in Pine Hollow before noon. I figured I'd arrive with plenty of time if everything went smoothly. I drove for nearly an hour without crossing paths with another vehicle. The road narrowed, winding gently between low brush and distant hills. No gas stations, no signs of life, just the high beams of my rig carving a path through the dark. Everything was quiet until a soft bend revealed something unexpected about 100 yards ahead. A semi pulled over on the shoulder. No hazard lights, no flares, just parked there awkwardly, its trailer nearly swallowed by the roadside brush. I figured the guy might need a hand. I eased off the gas and slowed down, rolling closer until I could make out a man near the rear doors of the trailer. He was short, had a dark baseball cap on, and wore a worn-out jacket. He was hunched over, one hand on the frame like he was inspecting something below. I pulled up a few feet past him, grabbed my flashlight, and stepped out. Walking over, I asked, "Everything good, man? Did your latch pop open?" He stood up quickly and nodded. "Yeah, looks like the lock came loose. You didn't happen to see anything fall off back there, did you?" His tone was calm. No panic, just casual. I turned to scan the road behind me with my light. And that's when it hit. A sharp sting at the back of my neck, cold, followed by a burst of electricity. I didn't even have time to react. My knees gave out, the world spun, and suddenly I was falling, slow and heavy, toward the damp pavement. My face hit the ground, and just like that, I was paralyzed. Eyes open, heart pounding, but not a single muscle would obey. I could see, I could hear, my thoughts were clear, but I was trapped in my body. The guy wasted no time. He rolled me over and began dragging me toward his trailer. Every scrape of my back against the concrete echoed through my bones. I could feel his boots stomping beside me, hear every breath he took. I wanted to scream, make some kind of sound, anything, but I couldn't even clench my jaw. It was like I was buried alive inside myself. Everything happened so fast, and at the same time, it felt like each second stretched on forever. At the trailer, he swung open the doors with a loud creak. Inside, it was pitch black, felt like the mouth of a cave. Without a word, he grabbed me under the arms and shoved me in. I landed hard against the metal floor. My heart raced. I was sure this was the end. I closed my eyes, waiting for the final blow. But he didn't hurt me. He slammed the door shut and locked it from the outside. Then came silence. Seconds later, I heard the engine roar to life. The truck started moving. I lay there, shaking, disoriented. Time lost meaning. Gradually, I felt sensation return. First my fingers, then my legs. Tingling crept upward like slow-burning electricity. A weak groan escaped my throat. I was regaining control, but fear gripped me tight. I sat up slowly. The space was cramped, suffocating, sealed tight. No windows, no airflow. It stank of rust, damp cloth and dust, like nothing had been stored in there for years. The trailer was empty except for a couple of filthy blankets and strips of old duct tape on the floor. Nothing obvious told me what he intended to do with me. Then I remembered my phone. My hands were trembling, but I reached for my back pocket. The screen still glowed. One flickering signal bar. That was all I needed. I dialed 911. My voice barely came out, but I told the dispatcher what had happened. That I'd been attacked, locked in a moving trailer, that I didn't know where I was being taken. The call dropped twice, but reconnected each time. I clung to that line like it was the only thread tying me to the world. The dispatcher, a young woman, spoke gently, trying to keep both of us calm. She told me to breathe slowly, to stay still if the truck stopped, to listen for anything unusual. I told her we'd veered off Route 38 near a place called Pinefield Springs. The pavement had given way to dirt. The ride felt rougher, like we were descending. She asked if I could see anything through cracks or seams. I searched the walls blindly. No vents, no slits, no light. It was sealed shut like a vault. But I crawled to a corner where I could feel a change in vibration. Pressing my ear to the wall, I heard them. Crickets. Close. That meant we were deep in rural territory now, maybe woods or farmland. I gave her every detail I could, my name, the make of the rig, partial plates, the color. She said if the truck stopped, not to jump out, to wait. Listen. Survival came first. My eyes began to adjust. I saw stains on the floor, some old, some fresh. I couldn't tell if they were oil, mud, or something worse. Then I noticed claw-like scratches along the wall, deep grooves, like someone had tried to escape. I shivered. How many others had been inside before me? Suddenly, the truck jolted. A sharp swerve to the left threw me into a corner. I hit my shoulder hard and let out a strangled cry. The dispatcher asked if I was okay. I said yes, but the road didn't feel normal. It was too uneven. The wheels crunched loudly over what sounded like gravel or rough terrain. The engine groaned with effort, as if climbing. I described everything. How the truck slowed, the way the path felt tighter, the lack of outside noise or lights. She assured me units were en route, combing the area. All they needed was a pinpoint location. But I wasn't sure. I felt alone, like I was just whispering into the void. Still, that voice on the other end was my lifeline. I had to believe in it. Her voice became my anchor. Every time the signal cut and came back, I clung to it like a lifeline. She kept asking me to focus on any change, speed, turns, sounds. At least 15 minutes passed on that broken trail. I told her the engine was slowing again, probably due to narrow turns or rocky paths. No other cars, no light, just the crackling of gravel and groaning metal. She logged everything, trying to triangulate my call using the last tower it pinged from. Then she asked something that caught me off guard. "Do you think this guy knows you? Or were you just a target?" I froze. I didn't know how to answer. I'd never seen him before. No voice recognition, no hint of familiarity. But something about the way he moved, the precision, it felt practiced. Like he knew exactly how to take someone down, how to carry them, how to disappear. This wasn't his first time. I told her that, and for a second I heard her breath hitch. Then she reassured me. Officers were getting close. The priority now was keeping the line open. That's when I noticed the smell. It wasn't fuel, not oil. It was sour, earthy, wet rust and decaying ground. We had to be dropping into some lowland or valley where water collects. I described it all, hoping they could cross-reference local terrain. Maybe a dirt route branching from the highway into backwoods. She said emergency teams were coordinating with local search and rescue. Units were already patrolling near Little Pine Creek and Carter's Ridge. Every detail I gave might save me, she said, so I didn't stop talking. Then the truck stopped again. This time slower, more controlled, but final. The engine went silent. On the line, the dispatcher whispered, "Don't make a sound. Just listen, stay perfectly still." I obeyed. My breaths were shallow. I didn't know if the guy was stepping out for something, or if he was already coming for me. The silence inside that metal box was so thick, I could hear the pounding of my own heartbeat echoing in my ears. Minutes passed with no movement, no footsteps, nothing, just the faint hiss of wind squeezing through some hidden seam. I stayed frozen, exactly as the dispatcher told me. Though my body had mostly recovered from the shock, I had no idea how close he might be, or if he was still standing just outside, watching. 3 minutes, maybe 4, felt like hours. Then came the creak of the driver's door opening, heavy, metallic, a slam. Seconds later, I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, dragging slightly across gravel. He was circling the trailer, checking things, inspecting. My brain was racing. Was he alone, waiting for someone else? Was he about to open the doors again? I clutched the phone tighter and whispered to the dispatcher that someone was walking around the truck, getting closer. She replied calmly, "Breathe. If the doors open, don't act on instinct. Wait for your moment." Then the lock turned. Every muscle in my body tensed like a wound-up spring. I was ready to explode, but my instinct screamed at me to hold back. The latch clanked, then creaked slightly. He didn't open it right away, just stood there, hesitating. I pressed myself against the nearest wall, breath held, heart in my throat. And then, nothing. He didn't open it, just slid the lock shut again from the outside. Silence returned. No footsteps walking away, no engine rumbling, just absence. I told the dispatcher what had just happened. She said it was possible he was waiting for me to make a mistake, to drop my guard. She urged me not to move. The officers are almost there. 5 minutes max. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. That's when the real fear set in. Not fear of pain, not even of being trapped, but of not knowing what he wanted with me. He wasn't angry, he wasn't speaking. Everything he did was calculated, cold, like I wasn't a person, just a package he needed to deliver. Was this part of something bigger? Kidnapping? Trafficking? I didn't know, but I was certain this wasn't the first time that trailer had been used like this. The temperature began to drop. Maybe it was the moisture in the air, or maybe my body reacting to the stress. I wrapped myself in one of the grimy old blankets from the corner and kept listening. Then, from far off, tires crunching gravel and sirens, distant, muffled, but real. I pounded the metal floor with my fist, hoping they'd hear me. The dispatcher confirmed it. "They're on site. Don't do anything until they've secured the area." The sirens grew louder. That high-pitched metallic wail brought a surge of hope I hadn't felt since the nightmare began. But I also knew this wasn't over. Not yet. The trailer was still locked. The man hadn't reappeared, and the silence was back, thick and oppressive, like the pause before a storm. Then the lock turned again. I froze, didn't breathe. This time I couldn't hesitate. If he opened the door, if he leaned in, I'd only get one shot. A sliver of daylight pierced the darkness. My eyes had already adjusted. I saw it, his shadow, long before he appeared. Then his hand, his head, slowly pushing into the trailer to look inside. That was it. I waited for him to lean in, just far enough. Then with everything I had left, I kicked, straight to his face. The impact cracked through the silence. He stumbled back, hit the ground hard, groaning. I didn't wait. Threw myself out of the trailer like it was on fire. The morning light stunned me, so bright after so much dark, but I kept moving. I ran. The cold air slapped my face. My steps were clumsy, tripping over rocks and branches. I didn't care. I just needed distance. I didn't know if he was chasing me, if he was bleeding out, or if he was still conscious. I wasn't about to look back. I tore through a path in the brush. My legs barely worked, but fear pushed them forward. I collapsed behind a thick tree and grabbed my phone again. Dialed 911. My voice was a whisper between gasps. I got out. I escaped. "I think he's close. Please." The dispatcher said units were in the area, told me to stay silent, to find any landmark. But there was nothing, just trees, dirt, and the trailer parked on a bend of unpaved road. I curled up between roots and leaves, trying to disappear. Seconds crawled. Then movement, something shuffled in the brush. A stick snapped. I tensed again, clutching the phone. But then I saw lights, not from the trailer, from a squad car. Sirens again, this time crisp, close. 2 cruisers barreled down the trail. I jumped up, arms in the air, shaking, voice cracking. "Here, I'm here!" I ran toward the nearest car, running on fumes. One officer jumped out, hand on his holster, eyes scanning fast. When he saw me, saw how broken I looked, his expression shifted. "You're the guy from the trailer?" I nodded, breathless, trying to explain through gasps. They guided me to the second vehicle. A paramedic gave me a quick once-over. No deep wounds, just bruises and a swollen neck where the stun hit. I could barely stay upright. While they tended to me, the other officers moved toward the trailer. Same spot, door open, just like I left it. Guns drawn, they swept the inside. Checked the cab. Nothing. He was gone. They searched the area. Found only scattered footprints leading nowhere. It was like he'd vanished. "Are you sure he was alone?" one asked me. I told them yes. Everything I saw, everything I heard, he acted solo. But the way he moved, the precision, it suggested something else. People like that don't operate without backup plans, not without clean exits. An officer radioed for more units. Soon, backup arrived. 2 more cruisers, a K9 team, a county investigator. Meanwhile, I sat in the ambulance, clinging to a bottle of water with trembling hands. Minutes later, a deputy came over with the truck's VIN. It matched a vehicle reported stolen over 2 weeks ago, taken from an abandoned warehouse outside Carson Hills. The plates were fake, rear lights modified, GPS removed. The whole rig had been altered for smuggling or worse. One senior officer looked at me with grim eyes. "You got lucky. Most folks don't walk away from something like this." I nodded, numb. But I didn't feel lucky. I felt violated, broken, like something inside me had shattered. An hour later, after securing the area, they asked if I could ride with them to file an official report at the nearest precinct. I agreed. As I climbed into the back seat of the cruiser, I looked back at the trailer one last time. The door still hung open, like it was waiting for someone else. Right there, I made myself a promise. I'd never stop to help a stranger on the road again, no matter how harmless it looked. The ride to the station was silent. The officer driving didn't speak, just stared ahead, jaw clenched, like he was still processing everything. I sat in the back, slumped, staring at nothing, replaying every moment of the nightmare. Every time I blinked, I saw that shadow leaning through the door. At the station in Millersville, they offered me coffee. I could barely hold the cup. I gave my statement for nearly 2 hours, described everything, from the first glimpse of the truck to the moment I escaped. They had me repeat every detail, every word exchanged. But the more I talked, the clearer it became. Some things couldn't be explained. How he vanished without a trace. No one saw him. No one heard him leave. The agents exchanged glances, confused, concerned. No one doubted me, not really, but they didn't know what to make of it either. One grey-bearded officer, older than the rest, pulled me aside and said, "This wasn't his first time, and it won't be his last." I asked if there had been other cases like mine. He sighed, looked down, and changed the subject. They offered me a cot in the back room, but I declined. I needed to leave. I needed a shower, a hot meal, something normal. I called my boss in Cincinnati. At first, he didn't believe a word. Thought I was making excuses for being late. His tone changed when the officer took the phone and confirmed the incident. The company sent another driver to pick me up the next morning. That night, I stayed at a nearby motel. Didn't sleep. Kept staring out the window every time a car passed. Checked the door lock every 20 minutes. Washed my face 5 times. My mind refused to rest. The next morning, before we left, they gave me a copy of the report. The truck was towed as evidence. But they found nothing definitive inside, just the things I'd described. Scratched walls, dirty blankets, a broken flashlight. No fingerprints, no DNA, no clue to who he was. No cameras on that stretch of road, no witnesses, no photo of his face. Just my story, and an empty trailer. As we pulled away from that town, I stared out the window, haunted by a single thought. If that man could vanish without a trace, then he could be anywhere now, waiting for someone else. In the days that followed, I tried to move on, But nothing felt right. I went home, tried to sleep, but the images wouldn't leave. The buzz of the taser, the cold floor, his shadow creeping in. Every night my wife would ask if I was okay. I told her I just needed time. Truth is, I didn't have answers for anything I was feeling. The company gave me some time off. I appreciated it, but I knew the truth. They wanted distance, no drama, no headlines. A kidnapped trucker was bad for business, so they said nothing. Just like everyone else, I searched the news, looked for any mention of the stolen truck, the chase, the investigation. Nothing. The report was never released. They told me it was under review. I asked if they had identified the guy, if there were fingerprints, DNA, anything. The answer never changed. The case is still open. And eventually, they stopped replying altogether. That's when I started questioning everything. Why me? There weren't many vehicles on the road that morning. Did he pick me at random, or was he waiting for me? The way he acted was so smooth, so methodical. It didn't feel like a spur-of-the-moment crime. He knew how to use the taser, how to handle a body, how to keep someone still without killing them. You don't learn that in one attempt. How many times had he done this before? And the most haunting thought, what if I hadn't escaped? Sometimes I sit behind the wheel of a rig, because yes, I did eventually go back to driving, and I imagine a different ending. One where I never found the phone, one where I didn't regain control in time, one where that door never opened again. That's when it hits me, how close I came to becoming another unsolved case. Just one more missing driver on a rural highway. A statistic filed away in a dusty drawer. Since then, I've made some hard rules. I never pull over on isolated roads. I don't approach stopped vehicles, no matter how harmless they seem. If someone needs help, I call dispatch and keep driving. It might sound heartless, but I've learned that sometimes kindness is bait. And even now, with all the time that's passed, one question still keeps me up at night. Where is that man now? Is he still out there, still waiting for the next driver to step out of their truck, thinking they're doing the right thing? Some questions don't have answers, and that uncertainty, that's the heaviest part to carry. It took months before I could take another night shift. The first time they assigned me a long route again, I hesitated, not because of the job, but because of what I might find out there. The night feels different since that day. It's not just the darkness. It's the absence of witnesses, the lack of help, the realization that when your phone has no bars and the taillights behind you vanish, you're truly on your own. That morning, while crossing a desolate stretch between Dry Hollow and Cold Ridge, the silence in the cab felt suffocating. The hum of the engine, the wind tapping the mirrors, it all pulled me back to that nightmare drive, and even though it was a different truck, a different highway, my body remembered. My breath slowed. My palms grew slick on the wheel. I checked the rearview mirror over and over, expecting to see headlights that didn't belong. Nothing strange happened that night. But fear doesn't need a reason. Sometimes memory is enough. And in my case, that memory is burned in deep. Every time I drive through backcountry roads, I avoid glancing into the darkness for too long. I feel like if I do, I might spot another figure, just standing there, waiting. I've shared this story with only a handful of people. Some believe me. Others say I'm exaggerating, but I don't tell it for sympathy or to scare anyone. I tell it because I know there are other drivers out there like me, alone on the road every day. And too many still pull over to help, never imagining what might really be behind that emergency. The worst part wasn't the abduction. The hardest part is going back to life, trying to trust what you see, trusting what you think you know. Sometimes at a rest stop, I'll see someone with their hood up or crouched by a flat tire, and I freeze. Because in my head, I no longer know if they need help or if they're waiting for someone else to make the same mistake I did. One night, while fueling up at a roadside station, a young man approached asking for help with a dead battery. Said his car wouldn't start. I couldn't do it. I apologized, said I was in a hurry, and left. As I drove away, I watched in the rearview mirror. He didn't even try to open the hood, just walked away. That's when I knew it might not be paranoia, it might be instinct. And that instinct is what keeps me alive. Because out here, where no one's watching, where the wrong decision can make you disappear, you learn to trust fear. Because sometimes, far from being weakness, fear is the only reason you make it home.